The desert keeps secrets. Secrets buried in dust, in silence, in shadows that stretch endlessly beneath the stars. But some secrets refuse to stay buried. Some claw their way back into our world, whispered by the wind, etched into the night sky, refusing to die. Tonight, we revisit one of those secrets. A story that begins with strange lights above New Mexico, ends with headlines the world was never meant to see, and hides a betrayal so deep it still poisons our trust today. A story officials rushed to bury, but one that will not stay silent. What really crashed in Roswell in 1947? And why has the truth been smothered for decades? This is not just history. This is the forbidden truth, one that still watches us from above. Today, we dive into... It begins with silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, as if the desert itself were holding its breath. On the night of July 2nd, 1947, rancher Mac Brazel lay restless on his bed, listening to the thin creak of wind through the rafters. He had lived his whole life beneath these skies, seen storms split the heavens, watched lightning claw across mesas, heard thunder roll like distant artillery. But this sound was different. It sounded sharp, metallic, as if the air itself had been torn. He jolted upright, waiting for thunder that never came. Only silence returned. Then a faint glow shimmered on the horizon, there and gone in an instant, like a wound stitched shut by the dark. The desert returned to stillness, but the world had already changed. The next morning, Brazel mounted his horse to check his pasture. The sun rose brutal and hot, spilling light across scrub and sand. That was when he saw it. An entire stretch of land littered with debris. Shards of something strange, gleaming in the heat, silver, violet, bronze, not scraps of any plane he'd ever seen, not fragments of a balloon. The pieces defied him. One felt like foil, but when he crumpled it in his fist, it sprang back smooth, unbroken. Another was light as wood, yet strong as steel, and etched into several fragments were symbols, delicate, alien hieroglyphs, sharp and impossible. He gathered what he could, but a cold unease sank deep into him. The cattle avoided the field. Birds fell silent. Even the wind seemed reluctant to pass over the wreckage. Brazel whispered to himself, "This ain't from here." He didn't know then that his discovery would ignite a storm of secrecy that still rages today. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this discovery would make him a marked man, caught in a web of silence that stretched far beyond Roswell. By the time Brazel reported it, curiosity was already stirring in town. The sheriff listened, uneasy, then called the Roswell Air Force airfield. Soldiers arrived swiftly, faster than anyone expected, as though they'd been waiting. Among them was Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer known for his careful eye. He examined the pieces with practiced calm, but his silence spoke louder than words.
The metal bent and straightened as though it remembered its form. The beams bore etched symbols no one recognized. No rivets, no screws, no welds, just seamless, impossible construction. Marcel collected the fragments, packed them carefully, But before he returned to base, he showed one piece to his young son. The boy turned it over in awe, whispering, "It's like magic." Marcel only nodded. He didn't say the word that pressed at his lips: alien. Back at the airfield, rumors spread quickly. Soldiers spoke in hushed voices. Something had come down from the sky, something not of this earth. Then came the statement. On July 8, 1947, the Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release. In measured tones, it declared the unbelievable. They had captured a flying disc, a flying saucer. The words screamed across newspapers within hours. AF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. For one electric moment, the impossible was official. Humanity was not alone. Proof had fallen from the sky. But the desert wasn't done whispering, because what came next would show just how far the powerful will go to bury the truth. Within 24 hours, the story was crushed. The same military that had confessed now retracted. The wreckage, they claimed, was nothing more than a weather balloon, an embarrassing mistake by overeager officers and gullible reporters. Photographs were staged of Major Marcel holding scraps of rubber and foil, smiling weakly as cameras clicked. But those who had touched the real debris, those who had seen the symbols, knew better. This was no balloon. This was no mistake. This was a cover-up. Brazel, once open and candid, suddenly changed his story. First, he described strange metals and symbols. Then, after long meetings with officials, his words shifted. Just balloon parts, he claimed, nothing more. But locals whispered he looked frightened, as though something unseen pressed against his silence, as though he'd been warned. And so the first betrayal was complete. The story that had set the world ablaze was buried beneath ridicule. The phrase "flying saucer" was erased, replaced by "weather balloon." Newspapers moved on, officials smiled and nodded, and the desert returned to silence. But silence is never empty. It is filled with the weight of secrets, and secrets always leave traces. Behind closed doors, pieces of wreckage vanished into secure facilities. Witnesses were reassigned, records disappeared, reports were rewritten. Some say crates of debris were shipped to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, hidden in a vault whispered about as Hangar 18. Others insist the wreckage was flown further still, to Nevada, where black hangars would one day rise at Area 51. Wherever it went, it was gone from Roswell forever. But debris wasn't all that was taken.
Whispers spread of bodies recovered. Small, frail, not human. Nurses at the base hospital spoke of late-night arrivals, stretchers carried under tarps, doctors ordered to remain silent. A young woman claimed she had seen one of the beings herself, its skin pale, its head elongated, its eyes dark and enormous. She never spoke of it publicly again. Those who pressed too hard were silenced. Jobs lost. Lives changed. Stories ridiculed. And if this really was just a balloon, why did they need bodies? Why did they need silence at gunpoint? Major Marcel himself, years later, broke his silence. He admitted the balloon story was a lie. He described the material again, the memory metal, the strange beams, the symbols that haunted him. His confession reignited the mystery. If the debris wasn't from Earth,
What was it? Why lie? And what else had been hidden? The betrayal deepened, because this wasn't just about one crash in the desert. It was about trust. Governments sworn to protect, instead concealed. The public fed lies, newspapers mocked witnesses, and those who had seen the impossible were left to choke on their silence. Decades passed, but the truth refused to die. Each year, new witnesses emerged. Soldiers who had guarded the crash site spoke of crates loaded under armed watch. A mortician recalled being asked how to preserve small bodies quickly, discreetly. Children of officers revealed stories their fathers had whispered late at night, confessions heavy with regret. Still, officials laughed. Weather balloon, nothing more. A lie repeated until it sounded safe. But the cracks in the cover-up widened. Declassified documents hinted that secret programs, memos spoke of extraordinary wreckage. And somewhere, in the shadows of classified hangars, the truth sat locked away. And here's the part that chills me most. Each new confession, each leaked memo suggests the wreckage wasn't just alien, it was functional, maybe even alive. The rage of betrayal lingers even now, because if the Roswell crash truly was a weather balloon, why did they silence witnesses? Why ship the debris under armed guard? Why threaten ranchers, nurses, soldiers into silence? Why erase photographs, confiscate reports, bury files under top-secret classifications? Lies don't protect the public. Lies protect power. And so Roswell became more than a crash. It became a wound, a scar on trust. Proof not that aliens exist, but that secrecy rules us. Proof that when faced with the extraordinary, those in power chose silence over truth, control over revelation. But the desert doesn't forget. Those fields where Brazel first picked up strange metal still feel hollow. Locals say birds avoid the spot, cattle grow restless, compasses twitch. Some nights, strange lights still cut across the horizon, quick, silent, vanishing into the dark, as if whatever fell that night never truly left, as if it watches still.
And the question remains, whispered across decades. What really crashed in Roswell in 1947? Was it a craft from beyond our world? Was it technology beyond our grasp? Were there passengers whose bodies still lie in cold storage, dissected in silence? And if so, what else has been hidden? What else waits in the shadows? Every lie breeds suspicion. Every cover-up fuels fire. Roswell is not just a mystery, it is a betrayal, a reminder that truth can be buried but never destroyed. But perhaps the most chilling betrayal isn't that the wreckage was hidden, but that fragments of it may have been studied, reverse-engineered, and used in ways we'll never be told. Some of the greatest leaps in technology appeared in the decades after 1947. Coincidence? Or a stolen gift from the stars? And if that's true, then the cover-up isn't just history, it's the present. It's in our devices, our weapons, our world, hidden in plain sight. The desert is patient. It waits. Those who lived in Roswell still whisper. Some say they see unmarked vehicles parked near the crash site even decades later. Men in black suits walking the fields at night, flashlights sweeping silently as though searching for what was missed.
searching for what refuses to stay buried. Because that's the real terror, that somewhere beneath locked doors and guarded hangars, the wreckage waits. And maybe it isn't silent. Maybe it remembers. Listen closely, and you may hear it. A tearing sound across the sky, a metallic echo in the night, a secret straining against its cage, waiting. And when the silence finally breaks, will we be ready?